Rico here, and we're back for part 3 of pack 3 of Build Optimus Prime. So, first thing we're going to need, if my instructions will cooperate, are parts 3-18 and 19. And then we're going to just lock those together with two 2.3 by 6mm PB screws. So we're just going to sandwich it and bring in the screw. That's the first. And the second. Again, want to make sure these are nice and tight. Now the instructions actually have an addendum for the next step. So the next part we were supposed to use is 3-46, this band. However, the instructions actually tell you not to use this band, and I think it's because it's too loose. Instead, in your pack there should be a loose bag with a replacement in it. Okay, so long story short, it comes in this bag like this. Now, instead of them just mailing the box to you, the box itself is in a plastic bag, one of those plastic mailing bags, with this inside of it. I mean, you know, they could have just sprung for the piece of tape and put it inside the box, but hey, what do I know? But as we can see, the band is much more resistant than the other one, so I think that's why it's been replaced. Okay, so then we're going to bring in part 3-13, and then that assembly we've already made will mount with 4 2.3 by 6mm PB screws. Okay, with that done, then we're going to put that piece off to the side, and we need the upper arm that we built in the last pack. So, it's really a surprise that we're going to be using that. So first we need parts 3-10, 11, and 17. So 17 is going to basically go onto that little dangly bit. Long story short, 10 and 11, which are the red pieces, are going to sandwich around the dangly bit and this piston. So that peg will go there. Part 17 simulates a piston. So there's a little track in there that you want the two arms on it to correspond to. Just like that. And in theory, it's going to slide up and down to simulate a hydraulic piston moving Prime's arm. So then we're going to sandwich the whole thing together. And then we're going to seal it up with two 2.3 by 6 millimeter PV screws. So then the instructions have you bend it 90 degrees for some reason or another. And then you're going to bring in parts 3-9 and 12. So 9 is going to wrap around from the outside, and then we're going to mount it with two 2.3 by 6 millimeter PB screws. Now, I do advise you being careful with that smokestack there, because I am going to eventually knock it off during this video. I did fix it, no problem, but yeah. And then part 12 will just go on top and cap it off. Just that easy. So with all that done, then we're going to bring in part 3-16. However, my 11 does not want to stay on, so I ended up having to glue it. So your mileage may vary on that one. So part 16, it's just a push to fit, it's just a decoration. Once you do that, it's good. And as we can see, my piston works, so then we're going to go forward. I'm going to bring in parts 3-4, or 3-3 and 3-4, and those are going to be mounted into the arm and the assembly we did earlier, and we're going to do that with three 3x12 millimeter bolts. So first thing we want to do is get all the bits and bobs from the arm in place. Now, something's not fitting together in mine, so we're going to come back after I find the problem. So here's the problem. If you'll notice, that piston is sitting at an off angle, so one side of it popped out of the track while I was assembling it. So I'm going to take it apart, fix it, and then we'll be back where we were. Okay, so we put the wrist assembly in the bottom of, I believe that is part 3. No, that's part 4. So now we're going to take this upper arm, make sure I put that cover back on so we don't lose it. So at that angled indent, that is where the piston will sit. But because it was off kilter, it wasn't able to reach the right position. So we bring it in, make sure everything's at the right angle and peg together. And then we're going to peg the other side on once I've verified everything is sitting and moving properly. So then Make sure the wrist joints all the way in, and then we'll bring in part number 4. I believe this is number 4. It's number 3 or number 4. One of the two. I got 50-50 shot. And so once we've got that sandwiched together, we're going to lock it together with 3 3x12 millimeter bolts. So I've gone ahead and prepped our bolts with the washers. So the nut has a specifically shaped socket. So I'm going to pick it up with, make sure my thumb is keeping that in place. So then, as I've got that ready to go, now I made sure the nut didn't fall out, so we're going to bring in our Allen key, put our bolt on the key, if I don't drop it, and make sure the nut isn't going to pop out, and then just some light turns to start threading it, and then once it's latched onto the nut, then we give it some hard turns until everything is secure. Then we're going to do that 2 more times. Okay, so then we're going to bring the outer wrist panel. Now it's uniquely shaped, so make sure you're lined up according to the instructions. But you want that wider part of the cuff going towards the inside, or I'm sorry, the outside. And then you're going to lock it down with 4 2x5.5 millimeter PWM screws. Because of the way this piece is going to kind of hang, I'm only tensioning the screw a little bit till I have all 4 in place. And then once all 4 are on it, then I'm going to fully tension them. Okay, so this isn't going to be the most camera-friendly angle, but this is me fully tensioning these screws. I just needed to get at a better angle to do so. We're going to set that off to the side, and then we need parts 3-1 and 3-15. Now, they want you to glue 15 in, but mine is staying in with no problems, so I didn't glue it. So then we're going to mount that to the front of his arm with 4 more 2x5.5 millimeter PWM screws. Okay, so much like the other part of the or with the wrist cover, basically you just want to get enough tension onto the first couple screws that it'll hold the piece in place, and then you can worry about fully tensioning them after you're done. So then we're going to bring in part 3-08, and then we're going to mount that to the forearm with 2.3 by 6 millimeter PB screws. Notice that big gap. We're going to fix that. So next we need we need a 2 by 5.5 millimeter PWM screw, and then that's going to mount the back of the arm to the front of the arm. And now you notice that big gap is now closed up, so all the better. So now we're going to do the same thing on the other side with part 3-7. We mount it from the side with 2.3 by 6 millimeter PB screws, just like the other side. We use a 2 by 5.5 millimeter PWM screw to close up the gap and mount it to the front. So lastly, we're going to need parts 3-6 or 3-5 and 6. The instructions want you to glue these into place, but when I did the test fit, they actually fully snapped in. And I mute the audio for reasons that one day I'll talk about, but so you can't hear it. But yeah, these just fully clicked in. So I didn't need to glue them because they locked in, there's no gapping, and it looks good. It looks good. So if I have a problem later, I can always glue them then. So then next up, we just need the hand. The hand is gonna slide right in. There we go. And that's basically the Pack 3 in a nutshell. I just have to put that one smokestack back on and we're good. Thanks for watching. Check out my fantasy story on Fiction Press. And Ecto 1 is next.